Okay, Whovians, Attack of the Cybermen. Yay or nay? Which side of the fence do you fall on? Hello Whovians, it's Time Lord Myth here with you again with another look at one of the stories from one of the classic eras of Doctor Who. And today we're looking at the Colin Baker story, Attack of the Cybermen. Hey, if this is your first time visiting us here at the Classic Whovian, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us. And if you want to impress all your friends with your in-depth knowledge of Doctor Who facts and trivia, then hit that subscribe button and the bell notification, and you'll always be on top. Okay, Whovians. For some reason, Attack of the Cybermen, the 1985 story, seems to polarise fans really a lot. I don't know why. Well, actually I do, and we'll get into it now. Now, one of the things that tends to divide fans is the amount of references that this story has to the entire Who history. And some people hate that. They feel that it's just a really lightweight story and it's just been chock-a-block stuffed with references, you know, from the history of Who to make up for a bad script. I, on the other hand, loved all the references to past stories and giving past nods to the show's history. For example, we basically start off this story with the Doctor is trying to repair the TARDIS systems, and in particular the chameleon circuit. Well, his attempt sends it careering into all sorts of problems in space, and they nearly crash into Halley's Comet. Now, this was a nice touch because it was contemporary at the time, and the writers, which I'll get into in a moment, thought this was a nice touch to set it in present day. But it's also set in the future, on the future planet of Telos. Now, the Doctor does arrive, and he arrives in Totter's Lane, which we all know is where the scrapyard of the original Unearthly Child was set, I.M. Foreman scrapyard. That was a nice touch. But as they emerge, the Doctor has at least temporarily fixed the TARDIS chameleon circuit, and it metamorphoses into an organ. And Colin Baker actually plays a few notes, and I'm not sure what it is. It goes da da dun 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 dun. Yeah, that's probably really not good Whovians. But the interesting fact about that Colin Baker actually did learn those notes, and he learned the correct fingering techniques just to play those notes. So, as he proudly says on the DVD commentary, that is indeed me playing. Then as they turn around and they leave, Perry and the Doctor leave, the TARDIS metamorphoses itself into an ornamental dresser, and as Perry says, oh yeah, that's really not, you know, that's really inconspicuous, Doctor. And of course it doesn't stay like that. It was just a lovely little nod to the whole thing about the chameleon circuit. And there's also a little bit of, you know, sort of controversial, or sort of, people tend to be divided about the writer. Okay, now the story is that you will see on the credits that it's written by Paula Moore. Well, the truth is Paula Moore doesn't actually exist. She's a friend of then script editor Eric Saywood, and her name was actually Pamela, or is Pamela Woolsey. Now, because the Scriptwriters Guild, the union rules state that a script editor cannot commission his own script. So Eric Saywood couldn't write Attack of the Cybermen. So he asked his friend Paula going under the name Paula Moore to write it, but he in fact actually wrote it. But there's also credit has to be given because it uses the Cybermen, so credit has to be given to Gerry Davis and Kit Pedler, the original creators of the Cybermen, Eric Saward, because he created the other race, the Cryons. Now, so that was a little bit of sort of confusion for fans about who actually wrote it. That's the actual story, and Eric Saward himself says that on the DVD commentary. Now, one of the things Eric Saward wanted to do was that to tie up some loose ends. Now, in Resurrection of the Daleks, the Peter Davison story, we met Lytton, who was a Dalek mercenary working for the Daleks, and at the end of that story, he just wanders off with 2 policemen that are under his control. That's it. Well, Eric Saward wanted, some sort of closure for this character, because what would he be doing in present day Earth? He's from a planet, Vita 5, a planet of mercenaries. So he had him become a criminal, and he's roped 2 offsiders into a bank job with him. But his real motive is something else. He's sending a distress signal into space, and it just appears that he's working for the Cybermen. Now, there's a lovely acknowledgement to the Patrick Troughton story, The Invasion, as they go into the London Underground and the sewers, and we see a stealth Cyberman who's all black, moving forward. And that's a lovely throwback to the time when we saw Cybermen wandering around, the sewers of London. That was a nice touch. Now, also too, in this story, Eric Saward had the idea to make the Cryons. He wanted to make them sort of like Ice Warriors. I mean, obviously not reptilian and everything. I think he meant as humanoid, as sort of warriors and very macho, sort of, I don't know, perhaps primitive, Viking types. I don't know, because he doesn't go on to explain it a lot. But the thing is that the director went above Eric Saward and talked to John Nathan Turner and said, look, I really think this story is a little too top-heavy masculine-wise. We've got the Cybermen, we've got the 3 Lytton and the criminals, we've got Doctor. Could we make the Cryons a female race? And that's how they came about. And Eric Saward, you can tell when he's talking, he wasn't very happy. He said, how do you have these very feminine, very flowing sort of Cryons how are they going to take on, the might of the Cybermen? And that was his pet peeve. And I thought the Cryons were great characters. I never understood that whole mask thing. I never knew, when I was watching it when I was younger, whether that was their actual faces or it was just a mask that covered their faces. But they were superbly played. And they had this very gentle, flowing, sort of touchy, almost ethereal quality to them. So despite Eric Saward's apprehensions, I think they worked. And they had some great lines when the Doctor meets one of them, and I can't remember which Cryon it was. He says, I'm the Doctor, and she says, well, you won't be for much longer if you don't hurry up. I thought that was just classic, just wonderful. Anyway, the story is basically that two people who have a time ship, Briggs and Stratton, have been partially cybernised. Now, that's really chilling, because we find out that the cyber conversion program doesn't always work on people, and they're not fully converted. So they have a Cyberman body, human head, and whatever. Now, their plan is to get back to their time ship and leave the planet Telos. And to do this, they need to get into cyber control and one of them, I think it's Briggs, who's really quite angry and a really good character because he has this simmering darkness below the surface, Whovians. And he says one line to Stratton, he says, you know, like this planet, you depress me. And that gives you a sense of the violence that's just lurking underneath. Anyway, they managed to decapitate a Cyberman, and Stratton is meant to put the head on so they can get into cyber control. Now, the Cybermen's plan is that they're going back to Earth in 1985 using this time ship, and they are going to plunge Halley's Comet into the Earth to stop Mondas, their original homeworld, being destroyed. So it all gets back to the 10th planet and the original William Hartnell story, which was great. Now, one of the other controversies too about this story was the gratuitous violence. Now, one scene which particularly disturbed a lot of fans and a lot of parents of fans who were, fans when they were young, was the scene where Cybermen are actually crushing Lytton's hand until he bleeds, and we actually see that. And we've never seen a lot of blood in Doctor Who. It's been very subdued. It's always been suggested, and there's still a lot of controversy. People say it wasn't needed. We didn't need to see that. We could have had Lytton just screaming, because we, just know that they've got power in these hands. They're cybernetic hands. They can crush flesh and bones. We didn't need to see that, and that still raises a lot of controversy today. And a lot of fan sites constantly have this debate, and the director now looks back and says, well, maybe we could have toned it down, but we sort of look at it, where do we stop? Where do we draw the line? So the story, as I said, it polarizes fans a great deal. I'm in the 4 camp because I love all the references to the cyber history. I also love the way Colin Baker's character is starting to emerge, and we're getting a sense of him, and his characteristics, and his relationship with Peri is starting to settle down. And this was the first story of season 22, and I felt it marked a great beginning, or a great season opener for Colin Baker. But as I said, it's very controversial. So where do you stand on this point, Whovians? Are you a fan of Attack of the Cybermen, or are you one of those fans who feel it may be just the story's weak, not well constructed, and there's just too many, nods to the classic Whovian series overall and cyber history? Let me know what you think in the comments below, because I'd love to know what you think. Now, obviously, as I said, this story is available on DVD, and there is some fascinating extras on this DVD, particularly the making of Attack of the Cybermen, because you'll get to listen to Eric Saward talk about the script, the director, talk about, the way they were shooting it and what they were attempting. And one of the things too, I'll just quickly mention, even though it was filmed in a quarry, they did this wonderful mist effect to make it look otherworldly and to make it look like it was cold and chilly, and that worked really, really well. Okay then, Whovians, well, that's my quick look at Attack of the Cybermen. Now, like I said, let me know in the comments below what you thought about it. And hey, if you've liked this video, don't forget, give us a like, and please remember to subscribe for more Doctor Who classic storylines and trivia. And I'll see you again somewhere in time and space. Bye for now, Whovians.